Hey everyone, today's show is all about the questions and answers portion of the Twitchcast. I've included timestamps. Just pause on the timestamp screen so you can read and find the question you'd like. As usual, I'll stay out of the show as much as possible for your viewing pleasure.
Salutations, glorious Ashes of Creation community. Today we are doing our development update as we do every month, and we're so excited to have you all join us. Welcome everyone, and today we have a whole bunch of new people to show off some really cool things about with our team. Steven's looking at all of them, they're all waiting patiently. But first we'll kind of introduce ourselves. I'm Margaret Krohn, I'm your community and marketing lead here, and with me as always is...
I am Steven Sharif, I'm the creative director.
Yeah.
On Ashes.
We're
Starting strong.
Sorry.
Are you the creative director? I don't know.
am indeed.
I am Jeffrey Bard. I am the lead designer. Good seeing you guys.
Yeah.
Hello,
So
friends.
today, just to kind of give you what we're going to go over, and we're going to answer some questions. I think we're doing good on time today. So
Are we good?
Yeah, we're doing good. We're trucking along.
Let's
just
get every single question
I mean,
answered.
we've been
That's
able to
true.
do
Yeah.
that. So we're willing to stay late if we have to.
Yay.
So the first question we have is from Unknown on the forums, and they want to know, we have been told that there will be seamless transitions from area to area. How does Ashes plan to deal with an event, perhaps organized by the community, that tries to put thousands of people in a node at once, and the problems that might create?
So that's a super engineering question. However, we can give you a pretty limited answer on it.
Yeah.
Obviously, when it comes to networking in MMOs, you have zones that have handshakes between each other, right? And
Yeah.
you have servers that are handling the clients connected in that zone.
Even when
or-
it's seamless, that's still how it's architected.
That's still, yeah, exactly. It's still how it's architected and how we're going with the architecture. But the idea is that our server architecture is more about load balancing. What is going to be present at these large battles and the connections between these zones, and we don't want that to impact at all, like the area where that handshake occurs or where that zone is split.
If there's too many people in the zone, you have to go to another instance.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we're addressing it. We have our own custom backend with that. We're working with certain partners as well in regards to that backend, and part of what is being tested with regards to Apocalypse, for that question in particular, is just how many we can fit on a single dedicated server. Even though we're going to have many servers that handle this load, we want to be able to max them out as much as possible.
Yeah, and then we also have some clever tricks in terms of relevancy of one character to another character, so that we can shove even more people on top of that. So
Absolutely. Well, did I answer? Did I just go off on a
No,
total?
no,
I think
you're
you're pretty
good.
much on.
Our next
Because I
question
haven't
is
seen
from
any of
P
these
Millhouse 24, who wants to know, will we experience different tidal patterns in the ocean?
Tidal patterns? I don't think we're going to be modeling tidal patterns.
Yeah, they won't be. I mean, what you will see is kind of more related to perhaps time of day or seasonal, right?
Yeah, doing dynamic tides is
we're not
that's
gonna
a
be
very
doing that.
big problem to solve.
But I think the question there is aimed at, will the ocean just be static content all the time? And no, we do have a way that we want to represent unique content at certain times or with regards to certain climates.
All right, our next question is from Erraticus from the forums, and I think this question is for our flat earthers.
Oh my.
Will the world map be global? Meaning, if I walk west, will I eventually get back to where I was, or will there be invisible walls or unscalable mountains at the edges of the map?
So we actually are going to
talked about
test.
this.
We're going
Yeah.
to test that actually.
Yeah.
We have plans to do both and see how it impacts.
And we've got a couple of different strategies to solve the global problem that we're going to try. So there's going to be multiple iterations of this. We're going to find the best one for us in terms of what makes the most sense, because it changes how we want to lay out the map, especially the edges of the map, where if this is the closest point to this, we really need to be thinking about it.
Yes, and because we're continental, right? We don't really need to worry about mountain range blocking off the edge of the map, right? We have oceans, that exist, and those oceans are fully connected. So that's not so much the issue. It's really more about strategically how it impacts our design on the economics of the game, the traversability and movement, and more so than a actual engineering thing.
Okay. Our next question is from Heath R2 from the forums, and wondering, other than taxes, will the only way that nodes get resources from players be by their own
prerogative.
or will there be something else that forces that?
So caravans also supply certain resources. Completing quests will do, but the majority of it will be related to players. I mean,
Right, and the mayor trying to incent players to participate in those systems, right? Because it's all the players working together to maintain the health of the node, not just the mayor. So part of being a mayor is being a good leader and getting your citizens to work on the node's behalf. So
and the when you mentioned that taxes would be the only way that it collects resources, taxes don't collect resources in the sense of what we consider resources to be. It collects definitely money, and money is the engine for how you incentivize the players.
Yeah. And our next question is from Zinni. I love Zinni's art. Zinni's been making us all
Z?
The Z. Never mind. You're right. Zinni's different. Zinni also is very
We
active.
still love Zinni. We love you, Zinni.
We love Zinni as well. Zinni's very active on our Discord as well,
Absolutely.
leaving lots of comments and stuff. Will we be able to place mayor campaign banners on our caravan? So they want to be like, vote for Zinni on their.
So we are. I know previously we had spoken about not allowing custom user images in the game.
But you can make.
However, I think we're leaning more now in the direction of allowing for custom user images. Yes.
That's going to be a whole approval process.
It is, absolutely. Well, what it will be is the fact that we're a subscription game, and if you want to jeopardize your account by doing the wrong thing with regards to custom users, then by all means, you may do so, and we'll have stringent practices in place to prevent that from actually being an issue. What was I going to say? Oh, so with regards then to the mayoral campaigns, if we're going to allow custom user images, then yes, you could totally do mayoral campaigns.
It's a lot of fun too.
Absolutely. I remember how useful it was, and the reason I will admit this, what kind of influenced my decision on that a little bit is in Arcade, and I hate having to keep referencing back to Arcade because
sometimes that's the best way to tell a story.
That's right. So those of you who played Arcade will know that you could purchase these custom, white canvases, and you could place them in your city or on your buildings or whatever. And we used to have our guild had an entire zone to ourselves, a city, even at the beginning of the game. And I used those to upload notepad texts to inform the guild members on what they needed to do in certain areas, when there was a guild call, where they needed to meet, if they wanted to use the crafting stations. It was really useful. And actually, I also used it to put pictures of my dogs up in my house as well, which was cool too. So
having your own custom frame
like
picture
home.
frames is cool. Yeah. Okay. And then Hijarim wants to know, will dynamic destruction also affect ships, or is it limited to just structures?
It's a question we can't answer right yet.
Yeah.
But depending on the solutions that we find to destruction, yes or no.
Sure.
Okay. You have something to add, or that's it?
No, that's fine. I mean,
Okay.
traditionally, if we did not use dynamic destruction, then what we would use is decals to simulate damage on the ship based on an overall hit point value. At certain hit point values, we would swap out the mesh to show a more destructed state potentially. And at that point, for a user in regards to immersion, both are very similar from the immersion factor, right? It's definitely cooler to have dynamic destruction.
Yeah. It's just a matter of whether we can find the right solution.
For those specific meshes. For the buildings, it's a different story. Yeah.
Also, I'm really sorry if I butcher people's names. Ozolotl wants to know, will there be a sneak mechanics usable? Yeah.
Isn't that like a Mesoamerican
like the
bird?
No, there's like a little.
Quetzalcoatl.
Oh, Quetzalcoatl.
There is an. What's that creature called? It's like a little fish.
Chupacabra?
No, it's like a little fish thing, and it changes. Anyways, I thought that's what it was, but maybe not. Will there be a sneak mechanic usable for all classes, or will stealth be limited to rogues? Will any or all classes have counter stealth mechanics? Ooh,
there will be counter stealth mechanics for sure. That's just a natural balancing act of stealth. But additionally, with regards to secondary classes, one of those aspects is augments represent the secondary class, and one of the most fundamental aspects of a rogue is stealth, whether it be actual invisibility or the ability to sneak around in the shadows or something. So you can almost certainly count on the fact that should you go a secondary class of rogue, that there will be the ability to influence your action items from your primary class with the stealth modifier.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Camnesia actually has a really good follow-up question. Will secondary classes immediately give you access to all augments for skills, or will there be a form of progression necessary for each primary and secondary class combination?
will definitely be a progression.
Yes,
necessary.
yeah. It's part of the progression system for the augments is very similar to the progression system for your main class.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. Our next question is from Matseo, who wants to know, you've mentioned that the highest skilled players in each artisan class won't be masters of all. How deep is this specialization? Will it be as specialized as armor smithing, more specific like plated armor smithing, or even as specific as steel plated armor smithing?
So when we reference not being masters of all, that doesn't mean you're not a master within your own one of the 3 artisan types, which is, crafter, gatherer, processor. You will be a master of one of those. You will not be a master of the other 2. So, for example, if you're a master of, crafting, and we'll reveal this later with some of the blogs that I know are already written up about professions, but the professions exist within those paths. And as you master one of those paths, you get to master the professions that are in it as well. It's just the amount of time you spend in mastering it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, did that answer the question?
Yeah, it definitely did. Wine Crow wants to know, is there still a chance we will get some form of the character creator during Apocalypse, or will we need to wait for Alpha 1? I think
So,
beta.
what, the character creator?
Yeah.
No, character creator is Alpha 1,
Okay.
I believe. Yes, there is a chance. There is a chance that it would come before Alpha 1, but there's also a chance that it would be
Right.
Alpha 1.
This is the character creator is kind of separate from our
Those
alpha
2
beta cadence,
milestones,
right?
exactly.
So you could see it before or after, depending on how much progress we make on it.
Right.
It is a separate thing though that will be included, at some point.
Yes.
Awesome. And then Caloron wants to know, will there be a typed chat system in Apocalypse for the upcoming playtest?
There will not be a typed chat system, no. Currently, there is just voice over IP in lobby and voice over IP in game.
Okay. And then the Lazy Peon wants to know,
Lazy Peon, what's up, buddy?
will there be a PTR or test server post-launch for upcoming content? If so, how do you stop players from feeling like they've already experienced all the new stuff during testing before content is fully released?
So we have a unique,
That's a good question.
Well, we have a unique solution for that, at least with regards to content, right? Is that the way some of our content system is, at least with regards to text, is there's an ability for us to make sure during some of the earlier testing periods that it will not be the content you actually experience.
It's like different
the
quests.
storyline.
It'll be like a placeholder stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's part of what we want to do, because a story is very central and to Ashes of Creation's experience, and we don't want that story to be revealed too early. Obviously, once we hit beta, that's where it will be revealed, and there's nothing really we can do about that.
Yeah, and
beta.
I think that there'll be little stories that you learn that are kind of like side stuff, right?
That's related, but not the core.
Right.
Not the core narrative.
Exactly.
But you'll still get the basics of like the systems and things of that sort and how the
Yes.
questing system works, so that'll help.
So to sum up that real quick, there's really no way we can truly stop it before launch, but we can mitigate some of it in alpha.
And then Digital Wind wants to know, if my favoritist ship is lost due to PvP or PvE, is it gone forever?
No, you can repair your ships.
All right.
You can repair your ships, but it is a lengthier process than you've seen probably in other games. And most importantly, you can only launch your ship again even when repaired from land. So,
And then Larry wants to know, what is the planned ratio of race/class specific quest to all other quests? That's a very specific question. If I pick a different race and class as my friends, what can we play together? I think it reads a little weird. What can't we do together? Like, are there certain things we can and cannot do together?
there will definitely be certain things that you will not do together because you're separate races potentially, but those aren't core storyline quests.
Right. Don't picture that ever being that they can't help you out.
Oh
though.
yeah, they could help.
Right? Like you may not be on the same quest, but you can
yes.
still do things together to finish that quest, right? We're never gonna unless it's like some kind of
solo instance.
solo instance thing, you're always going to be able to have other people play with you during those kinds of events.
And I think we're trying to avoid those, other than maybe for very specific
There will be
things,
specific,
right?
and definitely will be part of the game, right? It's part of the storytelling, but we want to make sure that the person who's playing a tank feels like a tank in their experience of the game.
To kind of aid them, if you're on a quest and you're a different race than me, let's like that, and I'm a dwarf and I'm like, oh, I want to join and help you, and you are on a instance quest path, for instance, would I still be able to join you even if I'm not on the quest, if it's like a group thing?
Yes.
It's a group thing?
If it's a group thing, yes.
As long as it's not like a solo thing. Okay, I just wanted to clarify. Okay, cool.
And the ratio of that is going to be relatively low, right? Like there will be very specific quest paths for those, races, for classes. We generally want everybody to be able to do everything, but there are certain types of stories that we'll be doing that way. But they're not going to be the vast majority of them.
Yeah, I would say far above 80%, probably like 90% are quests that should be
shareable,
done by
everybody.
Yeah, but the 10% that it does exist will be split among like race specific, title specific, your mayor, guild specific, potentially ownership specific, right?
All right. And then Lumbermark wants to know, are we going to see a difference in the visual effects of a single spell when it levels up? So as a spell levels up, will we see?
There will be hooks, and there will be part of our skill progression will also include the ability to add rider effects onto the primary effects, so that it's distinguishable. And also from a threat assessment standpoint on the battlefield, we want you to know the kind of loadout that another enemy might have, and you can tell a lot of that by not just their armor, what they're geared towards, but also their effects that are being used.
Right. And we want to have a consistent design language for all of that stuff, so that it's easy to grok what's going on in the game. But also not even just in those examples that Stephen gave, but also like, let's say you have Firebolt at level 1, right, and it levels up at level 5, it turns into a Fireball. You're going to see the difference there too. Yes. Basically, the FX will follow the functionality of the ability that you're using.
Cool. And then Black Sun Empire is asking a question specifically about something we had addressed in our first creative director's letter back in, I think, March, and wanted to know, can you share an update on the withdrawal from the payment provider Zola?
Yes, so that is still planned. However, many of the new account services that we turned on in December were very closely integrated into a lot of other systems. And the modularity to swap in a different payment provider needed some work, but unfortunately that work took a backseat to a lot of the back-end changes that were being done by both our platform and engineering team.
Our platform team has been so busy.
Yes, they've been very, but they just code locked. They just code locked on a lot of the changes from the platform side. And we've had some very great, meaningful consultation with some of the DBs we're using, database companies we're using, and AWS as well.
Them, right, yeah.
So they've been great with that. But progress report with that is it is coming up soon to do that swap. Trademark, and we'll keep you updated with that. But
we'll probably have something. If we did do that, we'd let you know in advance. We'd have an FAQ to kind of answer a lot of those questions. We've been trying to do that with any big thing that we have. For instance, like the opening in August 20th, we're going to have an article that comes out before that, kind of answering a lot of questions in advance. So hopefully those answer your questions before you even hop into the game or see those changes being made. Our next question here is from two different people. They had similar questions, so we're flagging them all in one. Devin Cook 2 and Pellman kind of were asking, what kinds of exotic weapons can we expect to see in game? Will there be glaives, whiffs, scythes, katanas, things like that?
So there will be exotic weapons. The question is, how many of them will function outside of like our normal weapon class system, right? So a katana will likely, you'll find like an example of it, right, in a one-handed sword, or a glaive will fall into the halberd category. Something like a whip we've talked about, but whips are problematic if we want them to actually look fantastic. So you will see them probably represented in categories that already exist. And then sort of the more exotic, those are still open discussions that we're having.
All right, and then Devin Cook also had another question here. For economic nodes, will players be able to donate towards a mayoral campaign so that a relatively less wealthy player player with better policies can still win versus the wealthier player with bad policies? I mean, that's all voting. Y'all gotta just.
Well, so the way you, I don't know if we've released this information yet, but I don't have.
I don't think we have.
Oh.
I know we have an article that's coming out later that will be about
the intent of the mayoral election in an economic node is, it was about economic nodes, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
this is
Is
economic.
an oligarchy basically, where the player purchases the mayorship. So in that sense, there will be a mechanism for you to have help with your friends. But it's not going to be as simple as just transferring gold, because obviously we want to make sure that our behavioral metrics when it comes to flagging the gold sellers in the game and making sure that they're not prevalent. We want to mitigate that to understandable transactions, and if the excuse is
But yes, you will be able to support your friends or people whose policies you agree with.
I think we'll probably find a design way to make it so you can vote or like
kind of directly with that. But it is definitely a thing that we want to, make part of that contest is where are you going to get this money from and who has the most of it and how can you combat that?
Part of what we've discussed in the past is, those friends must be either members of an economic node or the economic node that you're in and trying to get mayorship, and they can convert a certain number of their coins each week or something to the elected coin.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. And our next question is from Mazda69, wants to know, other than the mayor, are there any other prominent positions in the node leadership that have different gameplay mechanics available to them? Or is it simply the mayor and everyone else is a civilian of that node?
No, there's absolutely positions. And we drive those positions by title from a design perspective, right? When you have that position, you gain that title, and that grants you the access flag with a lot of the NPCs in the town or whatnot. Outside of like organizations, hierarchies within the organizations, the director of that organization inside of a particular node, priests or acolytes in certain temples that might be part of the node, patron guild leader, chief bounty hunter. There's a lot of things that you can strive for within the guild that grant you that special treatment. Within the node, absolutely.
All right. And then Ruanaku wants to know, or Ruanku, there we go, wants to know, what game rating are you aiming for, and will there be tasteful nudity? I think we've kind of chatted about nudity before. About a specific location of nudity, but...
So
on the beach.
Yeah.
No, it's a body part, specifically. But
What?
Yeah.
What's happening?
They were asking, people asked this question before, but it was about a specific body part.
Oh, dear.
That's what I was saying.
Okay, so the answer to that is we're probably going to end up around teen.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
We don't
That's
want
what
to
we
push
want
it to
to be.
mature, obviously. So will there be tasteful nudity? No. I don't think so.
No, that's not the goal.
That's not the goal.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, there definitely be, sensualized, atmospheres within the game, but it won't be direct on nudity.
All right. And Blighted wants to know, will there be any full loot systems that allow all gear currently equipped to be dropped on death, perhaps outside of the corruption system in certain areas of the world, a la RuneScape's Wilderness, for high risk and high reward?
No. No, there will not be a full drop. And the reason for that is because, our intention when it comes to progression within the world is we want it to be meaningful and, take some investment on behalf of the player. And even if from a design standpoint, we're like, yeah, but they have to choose to go to the area. We don't want a choice that a player can make where they delete their character, so to speak. Right?
Yeah. It's like, oh, this will be fun. I lost all my gear. Okay, I quit.
Yeah, I quit.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, they'll probably just put in a CS ticket and then no, I'm just kidding. That's what normally happens.
I didn't mean to go there.
Yeah.
It was an accident.
I was drunk.
My friend took over
many
my
times.
computer.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. All the time. My brother did something. He logged in. Joint wants to know, will you be able to see other players' levels and equipment characteristics? So like if you were to inspect someone.
So it's something we talked about early on with regards to having the ability for the player to show their gear.
Yeah.
The concern that we had there, and we haven't gone down coding this yet in the MMO, and I don't know if we will, but the concern there is that it becomes now a barrier for entry in certain activities, right? It's one thing to say, hey, show me your gear. And it's another thing to be like, send me an instant message on Discord and send me a picture of your gear stats. And so,
right.
like, not everybody's going to jump to that conclusion, except the most hardcore people. So we don't want that to be a barrier for entry that, players can't, participate in certain groups unless they have their gear shown.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a problem in MMOs, right? Where, people stop looking at the skill of the player or the fun that they're having in an experience and instead just look at raw stats, which really, they can give an indication of player capability, but oftentimes people get stuck in a loop where they don't have enough gear, so they can't do a thing to progress, and so they get stuck without being able to do that, even though they might be very good players who can handle themselves in that situation. So we are trying to play on a fine line of giving people enough tools to kind of see who they're playing with, but also not result in the stratification of unnecessary stratification.
And obviously, we accept and know that we cannot stop people from doing that if they're intending on doing it. But what we can do is slow it down a little bit, and hopefully that mitigates some of it.
Right. And I guess a follow up to that, because I'm speaking for the peoples. The peoples. What about? So are you expecting that guilds who are looking for specifically geared players to find out alternate ways to be able to provide that?
What? Which one was that?
It's the same topic. It's
no, there's no way we can stop a guild leader from saying, jump on Discord and let me see your character.
Gotcha.
You can't stop that.
Okay.
What you can.
Well, I'm not saying stop that. Is that what you're expecting people to do? Is what I'm saying.
No, what we expect people to play and utilize skill to be an indicator of their capabilities within a party for yourself, not necessarily rely entirely on stats, because obviously,
I kick you out when you're being a pleb.
Right, okay. And that should be in my opinion, as an MMO player, I have seen many guilds, and I will say even my guild was guilty of this as well. Is that to be a part of certain what we used to call constant parties, you had to have a certain level of equipment value, and in my opinion, that kind of sucks, because the whole purpose of being a part of a party is to progress and get better equipment.
You need gear to progress.
No, what happens is you should look at an individual based on their capabilities, commitment, time to play, all of those things as a guild leader, and take into account what the investment will be to bring them on board, even if they're lesser to a degree of another person's equipment value. You bring them on board for the person. No. You bring them on board for the person, and then if you want them to get to a certain skill level, or equipment level, you help them get there. Yeah.
But that's like a DKP system where you're looking at
DKP system is where you get legal with it, and you say
how often you're there.
Yeah, exactly.
You said attendance. You said.
Well, I also had a DKP system, but I subsidized my DKP system. I would put in Amazon cards, trip to the Vegas guild meeting, and then we had a custom programmer, get us a web page where we would track all the DKP, and if you just came to events, you got DKP, and then you'd bid at the end of each week on all the guild assets, and people could donate stuff to the guild, which would then go on the store, and whatever they donated, they'd get a certain portion of DKP as well. We had we had thousands of people in the guild, so.
Oh goodness.
Sorry. I was a little bit over OCD with that system, but it was
sounds like it worked good.
It was really good. Yeah. It was very good.
And then Diggs wants to know. We've been told that a group of summoners can work together to summon a golem with the subclasses of summoners, or with the subclasses of the summoners. Will the subclasses of the summoners make a difference in regards to what the group can summon?
Most likely. I don't know about what they can summon, but they might be able to change the attributes of that summon.
Yeah. Yeah. And that will sort of depend on how much time we end up having towards the end. We've got a goal specifically for this, siege golem basically, and its progression. But also, we would love to get lots of different types. And
that might be later content.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And then Paradox wants to know, we know there will be racial augments, but will there be cosmetic only, or will these be cosmetic only, or will they affect how the abilities work?
Racial augments will be both. They'll be cosmetic and they will affect the ability and how they work.
Okay, and then Dark Seraph and Jinx the Gamer both had similar questions. Will some items have special effects that are passive or on use abilities?
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right. Violetta wants to know, and this is the rest of these questions are from our Russian community. Will one guild
Dobry den.
Hi guys.
Comrades.
Will one guild or alliance be able to advance all 3 nodes near the castle, or will we need help from other players and guilds?
I'm sorry, I was trying to think about the Russian words. I know.
Will one guild or alliance be able to advance all 3 nodes near the castle, or will we need help from other players and guilds?
You will need. Well, I'm sorry. It'll be very, very, very difficult to do it just as a solo guild. It would be much easier if you had help, but yes, technically you could do it as a solo guild.
Yeah, technically yes, but we want you to be participating in the greater, broader community because you control a region, and so we want you to participate in that region
And be a little diplomatic.
Yeah.
And Sergey wants to know, will there be a contract system between players? For example, can I become a mercenary and sign a contract with another player who wants to hire me to protect his caravan? That would be cool.
Contracts are very cool ideas. They're very difficult to code around.
Yeah, because how do you, if you break the contract, what's the parameters, right?
It is tough, because we have looked at this a little bit, and we want to do something
Unless
like
it's
that.
an immediate quest that is timed or
There are
quest,
some.
right?
There are some.
Be weird.
There are some places where you can do that.
Yeah.
You can definitely are, but contracts would have to be relatively limited in terms of
It's
how.
just
So we already have certain features that are contracts, so to speak, right? That incentive system that Jeff was speaking about earlier that the mayor has is sort of a contract system. He's dedicating funds from the node as a reward if a person completes a task, right? So there's a contract. Complete the task, get the reward, and a player has control over that. With regards to caravans, if players come near your caravan and they see the option to join as a defender or attack the caravan or do nothing, if they join as a defender, there are also levers that the owner of the caravan can provide as a reward should the caravan be successful as well that he can provide. So those are sort of contracts, but they're not like, in the spirit of what this question is, which is like, I initiated.
If you violate this contract, there are these penalties.
Yeah.
And
No, that almost certainly will not.
Redlining.
it's very tough to make that happen. It would take a lot of work to make a system that we'd be happy with, right? Like we could throw something out and it would.
And that's
be
not
janky,
just
and that's
cosmetic.
not what
I
we
mean,
want.
a lot of those systems really aren't contracts. They're just like, hey, I get to look at a cool contract screen, right? And then the player has an option to break the contract, and then what is it?
Right.
Yeah. And then our next question is from Alexi wanting to know, will I be able to participate in a node siege on any side if I'm not a citizen of either the defending or attacking node? If yes, will I receive any rewards for participating? And I think...
Yes and yes.
Okay.
Yes. You can apply to help to defend the node and be approved, or you can just show up and attack a node. Now the difference is, with castle sieges, you have to be a part of one of the guilds that's registered. But with a node, you could just show up and there will be a person NPC you talk with outside of the battlefield and join on either side.
Even if you're not a citizen?
Even if you're not a citizen.
Damn. All right.
Yeah, that's part of the way you may have an attachment to a node that you're not a citizen of because it provides a service or because it's a great waypoint for right. And so we want to make sure that we support that.
Obviously, there's restrictions because it'll depend on your other affiliations. For example, if you're a citizen of another node that's at war with that node, then you wouldn't be able to join as a defender. But yeah.
So if you meet the criteria, yes, and you can get rewards, yes.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Anatoly wants to know, will there be buffs and debuffs that depend on climate zone or season? That's neat.
Probably not class-based buffs, right? But they might be buffs or debuffs based on the type of climate that you're in, or it might be an organizational thing where if you're part of the Frost Guard and you're in a wintry area, you might have some bonuses.
Same true for items. Items. So your character may not, from a skill standpoint, but your items might be, a frost cloak, and you get a certain passive bonus when you're in the frost area, winter area. Same is true for crops. Certain building and crafting mechanics will also be susceptible to climate changes.
All right, and that wraps up all
Thank
the
you.
questions.
Our
that we got
Russian
from-
questions. Do svidaniya.
Thank you all so much for submitting questions. We're going to try to keep with this format. People seem to be liking it. We're going to have more people from our teams being joining us. I know like a lot of leads are trying to see who would be interested in joining.
We get volunteers first, then we get voluntold.
Nice.
But people seem to be okay. They're fine. Just reminders, check our news page. We'll be putting new stuff all the time over there on ashesofcreation.com/news. And also, of course, follow us on all of our social media channels, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, all those things. We post a lot of things up there as well. And then, of course, if you are just tuning into this right now and maybe you want to go check it out, or if you want to watch it again later, you'll be able to watch it immediately on our Twitch channel, but we'll also be uploading it over on our YouTube channel if you want to go over there. And if you're watching this on YouTube, hi. Leave us a comment down below. We love reading those. We do read them all. And sometimes we reply to them. So thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you guys next month for another Ashes of Creation live stream.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
And that was the show. I really, really, really don't want banners in this game. This game is beautiful without some player-made artwork in it. Please don't ruin it. It's beautiful. If you've enjoyed the show, subscribe. We'll have more videos next week or this week. Thanks for watching.